Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make your cheap cut of steak taste way better in 3 different flavors. So let's get started. Before we change up the flavors and add flavors to any of our steaks, the frying process and the cooking process is essentially the classic way of making a steak. What we're going to do is just add some sauce and some butters on top of the steaks after to make it taste different. So, beginning with the traditional preparation of a steak, we want to let it stay out of the fridge for around an hour, and the moment we take it out of the fridge, we want to salt both sides very liberally. This allows the salt to draw out the liquid from the steak, and because it's resting for an entire hour outside the fridge, the salt will penetrate all the way down towards the meat. So the entire meat becomes seasoned and will be very flavorful. And after we salt the steaks, we will want to let it rest for around 45 minutes to an hour. And during this time, we can prepare the 3 different types of sauce and butters that will make the steak taste different. So beginning with the first twist on a steak, we will be making a chimichurri sauce with very fresh parsley, garlic, olive oil, and some chilies and balsamic vinegar. So you just want to take your parsley and chop it up roughly. Chop the the leaves roughly, but here I also use some of the stem. And for the stem, you want to chop it up almost into like a paste, a mush, so that it doesn't taste like you're eating grass and shit. So, but the leaves you can just chop up roughly, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the parsley or cilantro. I actually made chimichurri with both, and they both taste good, so feel free to use whatever you have in your pantry. We're putting all of it into a bowl, adding chili flakes and olive oil, an extra virgin olive oil. It's pretty key to use a very high quality, good tasting olive oil here because it's part of the base of the sauce, and a good olive oil will impart a very nice, like, rich flavor. And now I'm going to be just dicing up the onions really quickly and making it almost into like a mush, and this will impart a very strong kick to the sauce, which counteracts the freshness and the herbal flavors of the parsley and cilantro. So another thing you can do, instead of adding chili flakes, you can actually just dice up like a jalapeno or bird's eye chili, Thai chili, or any type of spice that you want and put it into the sauce. Make sure to salt and pepper the sauce to taste. And now we're going to be adding around a teaspoon of balsamic vinegar to counteract the richness of the olive oil. You can also add red wine vinegar to this chimichurri. After all these steps, you just mix everything and you let it rest for around, ideally, over an hour, but 30 minutes is okay, but the longer you let it rest, the stronger the flavors will be in the sauce. It allows the parsley and cilantro to imbue the oil with the flavor and makes the whole sauce taste very strong. Now, on to the second method to make your cheap cut of steak taste amazing is going to be a roasted garlic butter. Now, this is actually my first time making this, and it tasted absolutely insane. Like both my friend and I, we were like going crazy. It was actually, we ate so much of this shit. Like, it came to the point where we didn't even need to eat it with steak. We were just eating the roasted garlic butter with a spoon and shit. It's actually so dumb, but it was definitely worth it. So we begin by taking a whole head of garlic and cutting the top off. So this allows the individual cloves of garlic to be exposed. We put it on aluminum foil, salt it, and then we pour over olive oil. And that's basically it. Don't pour too much olive oil, just enough to coat the cloves of garlic. It's super easy, and all you have to do is wrap it up in the aluminum foil, chuck it in a 400-degree Fahrenheit oven for around an hour, and you're good to go. The cloves of garlic will soften up and you'll be able to squeeze out all the garlic and it'll taste absolutely insane. It gives a very nice roasted, caramelized, like very aromatic flavor. The sharpness from the garlic is almost all gone, and all you're left with is a very creamy, like it almost doesn't even taste like garlic. It just tastes good. Like I've never had anything that tastes similar to roasted garlic. So as you can see here, we're making the garlic butter for the steak. All I'm doing is squeezing out the cloves of garlic from the skin and mixing it with butter. We didn't use too much butter, probably around like 1 tablespoon. And we used a total of 2 cloves of garlic, 2 whole heads of garlic actually. And this tasted so good, man. Oh my god. And that's it. Like you don't need to let it rest or anything. Once you mix the roasted garlic, butter, and salt, it's ready for the steaks. Now, on to the third method for making your cheap cut steak taste better. We're going to be making homemade wasabi. See, I'm just kidding, but like, that was a pretty stupid ass joke. You just buy wasabi, and we're making a wasabi butter. So it's actually pretty common to eat steak with wasabi in Japan. Whenever you go to like a Ikinari steakhouse or any sort of steak place, they'll give you like a little bit of wasabi, some ground daikon, and soy sauce and whatnot. You can dip the pieces of steak into the soy sauce and add wasabi. And it actually tastes really good. It enhances the umami of the steak and pairs really well with the meat. But because we're in Canada, not a lot of people like wasabi, and for me, I only like a little bit of wasabi added to fish, sushi, and whatnot. So what we do here is we make a wasabi butter. The butter is infused with the flavor of wasabi, so it's not too strong, but it still gives you that that kick that you expect from wasabi. And even though I'm not using real wasabi, and it still tastes like what you'd expect. So if you can get your hands on real wasabi root, like kudos to you, because that shit's fucking expensive. But I would definitely recommend it if you can afford it and if you can get it. And it's really easy. All we do is take around another tablespoon of butter and maybe half a teaspoon of wasabi, mix it together, and yeah, you can actually put as much wasabi and as much butter as you want. Just make sure it tastes good to you. But keep in mind that the sauce on its own will taste stronger on its own. But once you put it on the steak, the flavor is kind of diluted by the fact that it's on meat and whatnot. So keep that in mind. So after all 3 of our sauces are prepared, we can get on to frying the steak, which is very easy. So what we do is actually we use bacon fat, because we made bacon earlier that morning. So, but I recommend you just use like grapeseed oil or whatever, some oil that has a high smoke point, and lay the meat away from you. And we use the constantly flipping method. So you want to flip it every 20 to 30 seconds or so to prevent the inside from overcooking and to prevent a thick layer of like the gray area that you get when you let it sit for too long. So another thing we do is we add butter and garlic and start basting the steak. So this is pretty standard like steak cooking. You just get like a great medium rare and a good crust on the steak. So once the steak is done, this is where the flavors can change. When I eat steak and when I see other people eat steak at home, they just kind of eat it with salt and pepper. They don't really add any flavors to them. So it's great when you have like a sick ribeye or something like that. But if you have a cheap ass steak like the one that we have, it was like $10 for 3 pieces of steak. So it's like super cheap, but the sauces make it taste amazing. So beginning with the chimichurri, you want to immediately put the chimichurri sauce onto the steak when it comes out of the pan, so that when it's resting, the meat kind of loosens up and will be able to absorb the chimichurri, and the flavor will go into the meat. Because when meat is cooked, the fibers tense up, and when they tense up, it releases juice. But when it's resting, it absorbs the juice around it. So when you put the sauce on top, it'll start absorbing the flavor into the meat. So we just cut it up against the grain to make sure it's as tender as possible. And once it's cut up, we add a little bit more chimichurri, and we we just eat the whole steak. The chimichurri was really good, and it gave the steak a sort of like fresh flavor that you wouldn't get from just a normal steak. The herbal flavor really counteracts the richness of the meat extremely well. So definitely recommend the chimichurri one. This one was my second favorite out of the three. Now, moving on to the second method, the garlic butter. It's the exact same frying process. So make the steak the same way, and when it's immediately out of the pan, we want to put the garlic butter onto the steak so that when it's resting, the flavors will go into the meat. And another thing that adding butter does to the steak while it's resting is it prevents it from drying out. So after we cut it up, we pretty much just eat the whole thing, yeah. But feel free to dip the pieces of steak into the sauce as much as you want, because this roasted garlic butter will actually blow you away. This is by far my favorite sauce out of the three. It tasted so f***ing good. Tasted so good. Like, we were actually going crazy over it. Let's see if I add like a reaction to the video or not.
Holy f***. Holy Was it insane?
Now, moving on to the last and the third option. Same frying process, and immediately when the steak comes out of the pan, we want to put the wasabi butter onto the steak. So when it's resting, the flavor gets imbued into the meat. Now this one tasted very good too. It was surprisingly good considering we were trying something new. And it was also good enough for us to just completely finish it. But what we decided to do was, because this was our last piece of steak and we still had quite a bit of sauce left from the other two methods, we just took all three sauces and did a little bit of like a mix and match. I think this idea is perfect for a dinner party where you make like 6 or 7 steaks, you get a bunch of friends over, you make 4 or 5 different sauces, and you just enjoy it like finger food. So the last piece of steak here, we freaking cut it in half because we were both still hungry because it just tasted way too good. But yeah, it's really simple to make your cheap cut of steak taste good. All you need is a little bit of creativity and a little bit of time, and you can make your cheap cut of steak taste absolutely amazing, better than any restaurant, especially that roasted garlic butter one. That one I will definitely be making more in the future. And thanks so much for watching. I hope you learned something today. And yeah, stay tuned for the next video, which is gonna be the chicken tikka masala video. As you can see, my kitchen is pretty messy. I just finished cooking that, and it was actually insane, so stay tuned. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you in the next one.